Greetings, I'm Hazel Tucker, and I'll be starting off with Task 1, the Greta Thunberg speech at the UN Climate Action Summit. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school, on the other side of the ocean. Yet, you all come to us young people for hope? How dare you? You have stolen my dreams, my childhood, with your empty words. And yet, I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction. And all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you? For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you pretend and come here saying that you are doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight? You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil. And that I refuse to believe. The popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in 10 years only gives us a 50% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees Celsius and the risk of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control. 50% may be acceptable to you, but those numbers do not include tipping points, most feedback loops, additional warming hidden by toxic air pollution, or the aspects of equity and climate justice. They also rely on my generation, sucking hundreds of billions of tons of your CO2 out of the air with technologies that barely even exist. So, a 50% risk is simply not acceptable to us. We who have to live with the consequences. To have a 67% chance of staying below a 1.5 degree global temperature rise, these are the best odds given by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The world had 420 gigatons of CO2 left to emit back onto January 1st of 2018. Today, that figure is already down to less than 350 gigatons. How dare you pretend that this can be solved with just business as usual or some technical solutions? With today's emission levels, that remaining CO2 budget will be entirely gone within less than 8.5 years. There will not be any plans or solutions presented in line with these figures here today. Why? Because these figures are too uncomfortable, and you are not mature enough to tell it like it is. You are failing us. But the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. The eyes of all future generations are upon you. And if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you. We will not let you get away with this. Right here, right now, is where we draw the line. The world is waking up. And the change is coming, whether you like it or not. Now I'll be moving on to Task 2, The Spider and the Fly by Mary Howard. into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. 'Tis the prettiest little parlor that you'd ever spy. The way into my parlor is up a winding stair, and I have so many curious things to show when you are there. Oh no, said the little fly, to ask me is in vain, for who goes up your winding stair can never come down again. I'm sure you must be weary, dear, with soaring up so high. Will you rest upon my little bed? Said the spider to the fly. There are pretty curtains drawn around. The sheets are fine and thin. And if you'd like to rest a while, I'll snugly tuck you in. Oh no, said the little fly, for I've often heard it said, they never wake again who sleep upon your bed. Said the cunning spider to the fly. Dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I've always felt for you? I have within my pantry good store of all that's nice. I'm sure you're very welcome. Will you please to take a slice? Oh no, said the little fly. Oh, kind sir, that cannot be. I've heard what's in your pantry, and I do not wish to see. Sweet creature, said the spider, you're witty and you're wise. How handsome are your gauzy wings, how brilliant are your eyes. I have a little looking glass upon my parlor shelf. I'm sure you're very welcome. You shall behold yourself. I thank you, gentle sir, she said, for what you're pleased to say, and bidding you good morning now, I'll call another day. The spider turned him round about and went into his den, for well he knew the silly fly would soon come back again. So he wove a subtle web in a little corner sly, and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. Then he came out his door again, and merrily did he sing, come hither, pretty fly, with the pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple, there's a crest upon your head. Your eyes are as bright as a diamond, but mine are dull as lead. Alas, how very soon that silly little fly, hearing his wily flattering words, came slowly flitting by. He heard that silly flattering words and slowly came by. Then, only thinking of his beautiful crested head and the green and purple hue. Oh, poor foolish thing! At last, up jumped the cunning spider and fiercely held her fast. Then he dragged her up his winding stair into his dismal den within his little parlor. But she never came out again. And now, dear little children, who made this story read, to idle, silly, flattering words, I pray you never give heed. Unto an evil counselor, close your heart, ear, and eye, and take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. Now I'll be moving on to task 3, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Tom appeared on the sidewalk with a bucket of whitewash and a long-handled brush. He surveyed the fence, sighed, and dipped his brush into the whitewash. Slowly, he began his work. dragging the brush along the wooden planks with a look of intense concentration. Just then, Ben Rogers came down the street, munching on an apple and imitating the sound of a steamboat. Ding dong, clear the track. Oh, Ben shouted. He noticed Tom and stopped. Oh, hello, old chap, what's up? Work, replied Tom gloomily, dipping his brush back into the bucket again. Work? What do you call work? Why? Ain't that work? Said Tom, pointing at the fence. Well, maybe it is, and maybe it ain't. All I know, it suits Tom Sawyer. Tom ignored him and kept on painting, pretending not to notice Ben's interest. Say, Tom, Ben said, leaning closer, you don't mean to tell me you like it? Like it? Tom stopped his brush mid-stroke and looked at Ben. Well, I don't see why I oughtn't to like it. Does a boy get a chance to whitewash a fence every day? Ben looked puzzled. Why? Isn't it just a fence? Tom leaned back and surveyed his work critically. Maybe it is, but it's not every day you get a chance to make something look this fine. Ben's interest grew. He took another bite of his apple. Tom, you know what? Let me try a little. Tom hesitated and pretended to think it over. No, I reckon it wouldn't hardly do, you know. You see, Ben, Aunt Polly's mighty particular about this fence, right here on this street. If you mess it up, no. Maybe the back one, but this one's different. Oh, come on, Tom. Come on, let me try a little. I'll be careful. I will give you the rest of my apple. Tom sighed and put on a reluctant expression. I suppose I could let you try, but Ben, do not mess this up, okay? You've got to be careful. Sure, Ben said eagerly, handing over the apple and grabbing the brush. Tom stepped back and took the apple and started munching on it, and with a grin on his face, he saw how Ben was working. Soon, other boys came by, and Tom repeated his performance, trading in turns at the brush for marbles, a tin soldier, and even a kite string. Soon, by the end of the afternoon, the fence already had 3 coats of whitewash, and he had a pile of treasures. He leaned back, marveling at his genius. You don't know how it feels like to have a boy want what he can't have, said Tom, smiling at himself. Now I'll be moving on to task 4, my expressive reading piece. Bernice Bobs Her Hair by F. Scott Fitzgerald. While Marjorie was breakfasting late next day, Bernice came into the room with a rather formal good morning, sat down opposite, and stared intently over and slightly moistened her lips. What's on your mind? Inquired Marjorie. Bernice paused before she threw her hand grenade. I heard what you said about me to your mother last night. Marjorie was startled, but she showed only a faintly heightened color, and her voice was quiet even when she spoke. Where were you? In the hall. I didn't mean to listen at first. After an involuntary look of contempt, Marjorie dropped her eyes and became very interested in balancing a stray cornflake on her finger. I guess I should just go back to Eclair if I'm such a nuisance. Bernice's lower lip was trembling violently, and she continued on a wavering note. I've tried to be nice and have been first neglected and then insulted. No one ever visited me and got such treatment. Marjorie was silent. But I'm in the way, right? I see, I'm a drag on you. Your friends don't like me. She paused and then remembered another one of her grievances. Of course, I was furious last week when you tried to hint me that that dress was unbecoming. Don't you think I know how to dress myself? No, murmured Marjorie, less than a half aloud. What? I didn't hint anything, Marjorie said succinctly. I said, as I remember, that it was better to wear a becoming dress 3 times straight than to alternate it with 2 frights. Do you think that was a very nice thing to say? I wasn't trying to be nice, she said after a pause. When do you want to go? Now I'll be moving on to task 5, which is the reflection task. Question 1. How did you connect your character's emotional journey through one of your pieces? According to me, I think I connected my best with the Greta Thunberg speech at the UN Climate Action Summit by immersing myself in her feelings of frustration and irritation. For example, her words when she says, "How dare you?" I can see that she's very angry, and I can interpret that she is very disappointed at the global inaction on climate change. And I think to convey that, I slowed down those lines deliberately and to increase its weightage. And I think overall, I said it with a very passionate tone and with a pause after. And then I also think that when it's seen in her call to action, that when she says that the world is waking up and the change is coming, I shifted that with I adjusted my voice to shift it more to a more optimistic tone to show that. And then there are parts where she talks about Greta's stakes when she mentions the world, the planet as a whole, and also the future generation. I think all of this helped me get into a sense of responsibility and authority. And I think that's how I got well with her speech. Question number 2, what did you do in preparation and rehearsal to help you bring one of the characters or words of one of your pieces off the page? I think to prepare and rehearse for my prose piece, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain, I think that was quite very fun to practice. So basically, to start off with, I read the whole performance, and I tried bringing Tom and Ben to life, the 2 characters to life. For that, I read out their dialogues multiple times, and that helped me explore different tonalities, styles of speaking, intonations, expressions, all of that. And I think that really helped me bring the story to life. I also incorporated feedback from my mentors, and I think recording the performance while practicing it and re-watching it helped me view it from a third-person perspective. And now question number 3 by section 2. What did you do to keep your voice and body safe for an effective performance? In my opinion, I prepared very carefully for each of my performances. For example, in task 1, the Greta Thunberg speech, I stood tall with a purpose, and I used my breath to add power to her impactful words and do her speech justice. In task 2, The Spider and the Fly by Mary Howitt, it was quite vocally challenging, so to prevent strain, I practiced quite a lot of vocal techniques and breathing practices, which helped me avoid the strain, as I had quite a wide range of vocal ranges. For example, lower to a more moderate, and then a high pitch for the fly. For task 3, I had to make sure that my voice modulation was intact, and I inculcated a lot of it to make sure that Ben and Tom are 2 different characters and they don't get mixed up, and so does not the narrator. And for expressive reading, I think for that, I made sure that my paper was held at such a level where my face, my gestures were all visible, and it didn't seem completely like I'm relying on the paper. And overall, simple stretches, I think, before each performance was quite helpful too. Thank you. And then for question 5, what challenges did the chosen style of writing of one of your pieces present vocally? I think that the chosen style of Task 2, which is The Spider and the Fly by Mary Howitt, was very vocally challenging due to its writing technique by the author. I think that since there were so many characters, differentiating from each one of them was quite difficult, and honestly, I really enjoyed taking up that challenge. Let's say the spider had a very persuasive and manipulative demeanor, and then the fly had a very innocent and naive that slowly turned into gradual hesitation, and then there's the narrator as a very moderate and neutral tone. I think maintaining that was quite vocally challenging. However, I took up this challenge and I'm quite grateful for it. Thank you, and this was Hazel. Thank you.